Isn't that the way it works? We all just assume any more things are so easy with computers. You go, oh no, it automatically turned itself on. We're good.
This is like me
So
trying to figure out the neural link where I'd be the first one to get it installed in my brain. I'll be like, let my computer just know what the hell I needed to do.
but what if it's wrong? But what if it's wrong?
Then I have
So
no one to blame but my own thoughts.
that's right. Yeah, that would be a scary place to live if you were me. So I wouldn't recommend anybody to put my brain inside theirs. That would be a scary thing. God, it is hot here. It's hot there. It's whew, Lord. So I've got some weird stuff from last week. So I hope I'm not boring anybody with this political stuff, but this kind of stuff just doesn't happen very often. So in America, we got the Constitution, right? We got the Constitution, and usually the only thing you hear about the Constitution is the Second Amendment, because it's the only one that matters. And really, it's second because the most important one is freedom of speech and freedom to assemble. I don't know if you guys have any problems with that in India when the English were there, but you probably did. So there's a reason that former colonies have this stuff in their constitutions, so the same shit doesn't happen again. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So I love political organizing. So I'm actually complimenting the people that were working against me, which is really weird. So there's an Oklahoma conservative PAC, is what it's called. OC PAC, I think is what the proper term is for it. And one of my Catholic priests is there. He's on the board, which is weird and spooky for me. And it's a whole bunch of other conservatives, but in all truthfulness, I don't know what conservatism anymore, and I kind of know what progressive is, but I'm not really sure I know what liberal is anymore. And that's from a guy in the middle of the pool of all of this stuff. I don't even know what anyone represents anymore. And I really mean that. So this group puts out basically a training video, which I've been known to do for my people, of how to go to the state capitol, how to get into the building. This is the room you turn to. This is where you go. And they're like, now, no one's ever gone to the state school board meetings until Ryan Walters got elected. And now a bunch of leftist liberals are there. So we need to match their power. Right. And that's fair. That's the other side, organizing, doing their stuff. And I'm all good with it. It was the grainiest, cheapest, shittiest video you've ever seen. Exactly like stuff I put out all the time. I was like, are they mocking me?
that would have been an idea I would have given them, where I'm like, can you please do like shitty production quality so that I can make fun of Sean and be like, dude, did you do this for them?
Exactly. I mean, almost like it was made for TV stuff. So all of this stuff gets done. Sorry, I got to walk while I'm talking if you're watching us on video, folks. All of this stuff gets done, and these people show up because they're dealing with septuagenarians, octogenarians. That would be people 70 and 80 for those of you folks that don't know. And they're retired. So they've got the time. And you know who you really don't want to go up against? Somebody who's got all day to do stuff. So I know that I'm sorry, I'm checking my bread, kids. All right, I got about 5 more minutes. I know that you've seen the video of the incident. But if you and I wrote a press release about this today, this is what we would say. Vice mayor of the village, elected official, refused his First Amendment rights to speak and be in an organized meeting that was an open meeting of the Oklahoma State School Board. Now, that is international news.
Yeah.
But I never go to a meeting saying I'm the vice mayor. I just go and, my version of street clothes, which is I always wear a jacket, always wear a press shirt, always wear an American flag pin, because I'm taking my effing seat at the table. No one's giving it to me. I'm taking it. That's the difference. No one's going to give it to you. So I get to this thing, and I recognize a few of the faces because, it's same people on. I hang out with the teachers, and they're trying to, I don't know what the hell they're trying to do. I don't think they understand that they're working for rich people trying to take over our schools. I don't think they know, and I'm going to explain that here in a little bit. So you have to interrupt if you want to talk, because I got a bunch of stuff to say. So I
Just
don't
to
want to be
give
rude.
just to give the audience some context, this is basically regarding the vote that's taking place, correct? About
Correct.
using federal
No,
dollars for a Catholic
state
school.
dollars for Catholic schools.
Okay.
And you know, you got to be honest with yourself and go, hey man, if the Catholics got an opportunity to go make $500 million, if I were a true believer in that system, I'd go for the $500 million. For those of you who don't understand, our schools take up half of the government budget. Could they be run more efficient? Probably. Are they a disaster like you hear? Because we are second to the last in America in education. Now, that didn't just happen. 20 years ago, we were 37th. So we've slid down 12 spots. So look, I'm a, and if I'm speaking to an Indian audience, this is great because the only way out of poverty is education. That's it. It's the only way, unless you hit the lottery or decide to take a risk on crime and you succeed. I guess it's not the only way. There's 3 ways.
Okay. I was going to be like, don't say only way and list 3 other things.
Right. Well, you know, the other ones probably are the probability is a lot less. Hey, if you got a great education, you're more than likely going to be able to move up at least one class. And even here in America, where we supposedly don't have a class society, if you're poor or lower middle class, depending on your zip code and your mother's education, I can almost tell you where you're going to get in life. And the only way to move above that is education. So I'm an avid believer in it. So anyway, so I'm back to this whole damn story. So I go walking in, I'm like, oh God, all the crazies are here. And I'm sure they look at me and go, oh, the crazies here. So I appreciate the fact that both sides feel the same way about each other.
Talent recognizes talent, Sean.
Exactly. Who's willing to go to the biggest extreme? Because that person usually wins. It's war. I mean, it literally is. So I'm walking around in the back of the room and I'm like, God dang it, man, I'm probably not going to get to speak this week again, which is fine because I just go speak to the news or social media. I get more coverage than anybody doing that. So there's this teenage girl and her mom's there, and her mom gives me a nod, which means she's a teacher and I know her, but they can't say anything in public because this guy will take it out on them. I mean, it's a really, really scary system right now. And the girl starts saying something about speaking, and I go, hey man, I'm sorry, but I was eavesdropping. But if you want to speak, you got to get to the front of the line. These people have blocked this door on purpose, so none of us get to speak. And you're the only one here that is still in school. You're the one we actually need to hear from. And she was like, well, I don't know if I can do that. And I go, it's the way it works. I go, let me show you. And so I start walking up to the front of the line. I'm not bumping into anybody or anything. There's room. And I get up there and there's this old codgery guy. One of them 6'5", about 300 pounds, and the other one's normal sized human. They're blocking the door. And this is an open meeting of the school board. And the one guy's giving out numbers to people, like a number in line. Like if you were up there, you'd be number 17, but you're brown, he would not have given it to you. Truthfully. Give it to his old white friends, and nobody else got him. And so we get ready to start the meeting, and somebody goes, well, where's your number? You can't be up here. And I go, I don't have a number. What are you talking about? And so they go, well, he gave out numbers. and you know me well enough to know I looked at that guy and said, what the fuck are you talking about? Do you work here? And the thing I would say, you have to speak up at that moment. You have to. You can't be the person that stands back and doesn't do anything, or this continues. And he makes it seem normal. He goes, no, I'm just organizing it, make it better for everybody. I go, fuck you. And so this lady on my right goes, that's not gentlemanly. And I go, yeah, I didn't say it was a gentleman. And she goes, are you a teacher? And I go, no, I'm not a teacher. I'm a pub owner. I can say whatever the hell I want. And so I turn back over and start arguing with this guy again. Well, what ends up happening is their organized group that had the organized video all starts shouting at me. And much like you, the stand-up comedian kicks in, and I'm one pop, 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 one line and back to every one of them. So the police think I'm the problem. because I'm the center of attention, not on purpose, and I'm the center of attention, and I'm not fighting. We weren't fighting. We were arguing.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me to leave. And I go, no, man, I'm waiting to speak. These two guys are trying to control the door. You can't let them do this. And the guy keeps interrupting me. Every time I'd say something, he'd go, and I'd go,
Oh, God.
right. So here's the irony. So I'm the first to admit that white privilege exists, or I wouldn't have been able to walk up to the front of the line.
Mm-hmm.
I exist because
yeah.
I get to yell at this guy and nobody immediately arrests me. I'm not on the ground. I didn't get tased. Don't tase me, bro. None
Sean,
of that
if
stuff.
I was with you and followed you, I would be on the ground. You would have just turned around and been like, ah, damn it, not again.
That's the brown guy. They got him. Right. Because look, three old white people arguing with each other. Everybody just comes over and goes, shh, shh, hey, we're going to be organized here. Now, so I get walked out, and this trooper, who seems to be agitated and aggravated, because they weren't well organized. They did not expect us, because those people organized in secret. So I tell him what happened, and he goes, "No, you've incited a riot." And I go, "Dude, you don't even know what a riot is if you think this is a riot." And he said it like 3 times, and the third time I go, "Don't say that to me again, or I'm going to have my lawyer on the phone and explain to you what inciting a riot means. So stop doing it." I go, "These guys are violating my First Amendment rights by giving out these numbers and trying to control the door and this."
Mm-hmm.
He goes back in there and figures out I'm correct and brings out the old guy. And the other big 6'5" guy has by now assaulted 2 people. Now, this is in a state school board meeting. There is none of us there in school except one little girl. And there's a brawl happening. Right. That is where we are right now. It is nuts. So what do we do with it? So the back to this crazy shit. So I get the police, once they finally figure out the deal, and people don't understand, police in Oklahoma, you don't get to argue with them. That's old school Southern shit. When they say shut up, they mean it. Or they're going to shut you up. This isn't some New York thing where you get to argue with them and all of that. So I shut up, but I'm out there, and at the end of it, when they figure out the whole deal, I filled out a complaint with the big guys. So they had an eyewitness of him assaulting a cop. He bumped up against a cop. Now, who gets to literally bump up against a cop and live? And who gets to go home without being charged for a goddamn crime? You've lived here. Exactly. I mean, and I am not a person that does the old, oh my God, because I'm usually the one people are going, you got a little bit of privilege. This is the shit they're talking about when they say that. This would not work this way for any ethnicity or a female. It just wouldn't. And these are teachable moments where you go, how'd this guy? So he grabs a woman, kind of throws her into a wall. She drops to the ground. Cop comes in, breaks it up. And then he bumps up to the cop like he wants to fight him. And that fucking guy goes home without being charged with anything. Right.
Beauty of
they'd have killed you. Dude, they would have killed you.
Oh, for sure.
Really? Yeah. Everything that day was terrible, except the Daily Oklahoman, our local newspaper, the Oklahoman, and a guy named Ben Felder took the magic video. He was behind me as I was arguing with somebody else, and I didn't see him because it's been 10 years since I've really known this guy. He's behind me, and he shoots the video from my angle of this guy literally stopping me, talking about the tickets and all this other BS. And somebody else got the video of him being thrown out by the highway patrol going, you can't give away tickets in here. What is wrong with you people? This guy does not work for us. So I have all of the info. And then today I'm going down to the Attorney General, which is Kettner Drummond is our Attorney General now. And I'm filing my formal civil complaint. So I'm going to go to the highway patrol after that and see what I can file there. And then later today, I'm going to go down to the district attorneys, but I'm going to file a civil suit, because in this world we live in, if you can't get somebody criminally convicted, you can usually sue them in civil court So the
Yeah.
first thing you want to do is look and see if they own a home and how much their home is worth. Are they worth suing? And he's worth suing.
Jesus Christ, Sean. I forget how vengeful you can be.
Oh, I'm awful. Well, here's the thing. When I talk to an attorney, they're going to say, well, I mean, what do you think we can get out of this? And you go, well, here's the paperwork. So the problem is I've never been to India, so I can't comment on over there. The single most important right we have in America is freedom of speech and freedom to assemble. And slowly they're picking away at freedom to assemble. It's unfortunate. My father would be very upset if he were still alive. So, I am sure you guys did not have freedom of speech or freedom of assembly when the Brits were there.
No. I'm pretty sure that we were picked up and chucked out of the way.
Right. There's so many of them, he won't be missed. That kind of stuff. So, so that's where we are on all that. And my thing is I want to take this to the ultimate level so people stop doing this. I appreciate if you're organized. I really do. I'm a person that will respect the fact that you took the time to be there. Yeah. I will listen to what you're saying because there's probably a kernel of truth or 10% of truth that I could agree with. The other 90, probably not. But I don't shout regular people down. I only do elected officials that are lying, cheating, shitbags. So
you seem to be bumping up against a lot of them these days. Is that the number of them have increased, or what is happening?
Well, I think so. I'll give you this weird example. So this other guy that works for the state school board was spewing some nonsense, and he was going to speak at a Second Amendment meeting. And so I went to the meeting. Everybody there was polite and civil, but the guy spoke and then he left. He didn't take any questions. So I didn't have anything to say to anybody. And after the meeting, the head guy was like, God dang, I thought you were going to be a bunch of trouble. And the sheriff was there who introduced himself to me. We talked for about 15 minutes. And the guy was like, man, I saw that video. And I go, yeah, he was violating my First Amendment rights. What would you do if I tried to take your gun? So have the same respect for my First Amendment right as I do for your second. I do. I lived in a country where the people in charge had guns and the people that weren't in charge did not have guns. You are living in a country that the Brits had guns. You guys didn't have guns. That's so I don't argue with any of that. And the guy was like, I just didn't expect you to be so entertaining and nice. I am until I'm not.
I know. They haven't seen the other side.
So here's the deal. And it's a right-wing, pro-guns group, but everybody was civil. That's the way it's supposed to work. We don't have to agree. But the only way we're ever going to find a compromise is if everybody's somewhat civil. So they invited me to come speak next month. And I go, okay. And he said, they're not all going to agree with you or like you. And I go, I could give a hoot, but I'll guarantee I'll talk about stuff we all have in common. Yeah. So that could be a heck of a good show.
That would be a wonderful one.
Yeah, they don't let us record in there, which I thought was a little odd, but I respect their rules and I didn't record. So
I think there would be something to do with the privacy of a gun owner or whatever, right? Since they
I'm okay with that. The only difference I have with them is this stuff called constitutional carry, where you carry a sidearm or an assault rifle around, because I would never do that. I'm not saying they're wrong for doing it. I don't do that because, look, I don't want you to know I have a weapon. I want to be able to surprise you with it. It isn't that I don't believe in them. I want to have the jump on you. Yeah. If I'm in a room and somebody has a gun on their side, I am literally 2 feet behind them on the right.
What is that cheap, shitty ass beer, which is like the cheapest beer? What is it called?
Natty Light?
Natural light.
Yeah.
Natural light. It's like usually the guy who's carrying the gun in the convenience store will be carrying one of those. Yeah. And I'm like,
30
of
pack
course
of
you
Natty
are.
Light. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm not interested in mugging you for that shit beer.
You have nothing I want. But here's the funny thing. So, when the guy in meetings like that, everybody that spoke speaks with what's called the grain of truth, meaning you start with an argument that's believable, and then you stretch it out into this disbelief, which gets people going. Yeah. 4 times in that meeting, I heard about boys being in girls' bathrooms in high school. And I literally just had to sit there and go, okay, well, I get my opportunity to speak sooner or later. But that's all they hear on the news. And that's what these guys went to. We did have one incident in our state in Oklahoma. This transgender student transferred into a school. And I'm not sure this wasn't a setup, because it sounded like a setup. And then went to into the girls' bathroom and got into a fight and supposedly hit some girl. Now, if I were a political operative, that's pretty easy to set up.
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so that's the grain of truth. They have this one argument, and there is a person that used to be a male that was a swimmer back east at some university. He wasn't very good. You know, he was like number 8 on his own team, and then transitioned to being female. And then all of a sudden became a champion. And I think any of us that watch that and go, dude, that isn't fucking fair. Come on, man.
Yeah. Is that like Alabama or somewhere? It's somewhere.
No, it's somewhere back east, like on the East Coast. Okay. But the thing is they had him on 60 Minutes, and they go, oh, you're just killing your cause. You're not helping. And that kind of stuff doesn't help, because it forces arguments where they don't truly exist. And you go, that should be logical enough. We really shouldn't have to argue about this. But that's where we are. So they get that grain of truth thing, and they do that. And instead of talking about why our reading scores are so low in minority communities, we don't address that. And the deal is so if you came from Honduras with a 3rd grade education, and you're married to a woman from Honduras who had a 3rd grade education, our education system looks great to you because it's so much better than Honduras. That's my dad's mentality. He had the same education from Ireland. Yeah. But if what your mom's education level, that's who usually handles children's education. That determines how important it is. And if it's not important to them at home, we can't make it important to them at school. We can find the nugget in there that's the real smart kid that came from 2 uneducated parents and help that kid achieve. But if the parents aren't very smart, the kid's not very smart, and they're in an inner city school that looks just like them and has no mix of other people, how do you expect teachers to be blamed for inability to teach in that environment?
Do you know that that article actually made the newspaper here a couple of days ago?
Oh, you're kidding.
The reading and math had fallen to like the lowest levels in the United States in a very long time. Yeah, probably all the IT guys polishing their passports. Right. They're probably gonna need us.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. You go, so it's not new. What's happened is, all the whites go to the suburbs. And if schools are of interest to you, you put your kids in a charter school or a private school. So every time that kid that was scoring at 99, like I'm an example. So I always scored 99 on all my tests, but I had like a C average. I was a lazy student. So if I moved from one school district with my 10 other friends that scored that way to another one, the test scores dropped. And if COVID taught everybody one thing, is parents don't know how to teach at home. Video learning really does not work as well as everybody thought it would. And it's difficult. So it's going to take us 5 years, maybe 10 years to make a comeback from COVID. You can blame the teachers, but the kids were home with their parents for 2 years.
Yeah.
Who do you want to blame? I mean, honestly, they were home with the parents, and the test scores are the lowest they've been ever. Well, why didn't you do better, parents? Why didn't you do better?
They're not built that way. But the weird part is that the number of people who thought that teaching was easy, and once they got their kids fucking full-time at home, they were like, Jesus Christ, I don't know how these damn teachers do it. Even if it's your own child, after like 3 months, you go like, this idiot just doesn't know how to read.
And it's expertise to teach somebody That's the thing that we're discounting over here, but that's just part of the system of making education seem unimportant, because those of us that are from specific societies know that it is, and other people, I don't, Kathy would travel around the state when she was running for statewide office, and people would tell her that the schools are good enough for what they need, which was oil field workers.
No. Oh, that's a horrible standard to like kind of limit a student to, like a kid who has no idea that this is what is going on. He's just put into this conveyor belt that chucks him off at this level in life. And all the morons who think that education is not important, the only like 3 examples they can ever give me is like Gates, Jobs, and Musk. And I'm like, dude, those are the 1 in a billion chances. Not everybody's gonna have that.
You know what we need in Oklahoma is somebody that develops the ability to get God, what is it that everybody is mining for batteries?
Cobalt.
What is it? Cobalt. So in our expand God, what's the right word? Terminated oil well. So they still give off methane gas, so they all need to be covered properly. That's a great contributor to climate change, and nobody's doing anything about it. Oil wells that have been abandoned. But in that well, if they used fracking fluids, in those fluids mixed with all that other stuff is evidently a ton of cobalt. And eventually that will be an enormous business. But you have to figure out how to get the cobalt out, and how poisonous does the sludge become without the cobalt.
I'm pretty sure that human beings are known to go full steam ahead without any concern for the consequences. Like we'll remove the cobalt and we'll create some sort of blob that's wandering around underneath.
Underneath us, and wonder why things go wrong. So they pumped all of that. So if you hit a well that was salt water or something like that, you would sell that well to as a disposal well, is what it's called. And so they would pump all that other stuff that they injected back into it. It's like a slurry, like you'd make a sauce, 10 things in there, and it gets pumped back in. That is where the cobalt mining is supposedly going next. And for Oklahoma, it's great. I mean, God knows we've got tens of thousands of abandoned wells that we could go pull that out of. And, you think of a couple of large wells, how much could you pull out of there? So it is, but, somebody figured that out. That's from school. Somebody figured out how to horizontal drill. That's from school. That was an engineering principle. I mean, you got to have enough school to be creative enough to get the next idea, because we don't need everybody to have the next idea, but we need the right person to have it.
Yeah, at least that foundation, once that's in place, you actually have a basis to build on it in whichever direction you want to take your creative abilities to.
Yeah, correct. And then, I mean, who would have thought that that basically the war with Ukraine would be controlled by drones that are being flown by kids that spent their entire childhood playing video games?
I know. Isn't that like all the parents who yelled at their kids and said, "You're wasting your time, you're never going to get somewhere." Those kids are probably in the army bombing the shit out of some helpless country.
They need you. I am one of those people that did not allow video games in the house. We didn't allow it. No, so I in the morning didn't do TV, and no one was allowed to watch TV until all their homework was done. And then I would read literally to my sons every night. It would take an hour, hour and a half sometimes until they fell asleep, but they were great stories and everything else. I decided I was going to do different than what I saw, but it turns out the video game playing works out for some people. Right.
Speaking of video games, you do know that, so games have gotten a lot more sophisticated than the shitty ones we hear about in the news, which are those, just going to kill this guy.
We had Pong. I had Pong.
I know. Hey, without the existence of Pong, none of this multi-billion-dollar industry would ever exist.
That's true. Yeah, Pong. Like, I literally sat back and watched my friends play Pong, and I'm like, come on, guys, let's go outside. This sucks.
They say that was the first time where the television, which was always a passive media, for the first time, it wasn't passive anymore. It was interactive. So even though it was just a basic 2 dots, 3 dots going up and down, it just worked perfectly. But what I was trying to say is the game Minecraft is kind of like a block building game where they're using that to basically teach and build skills in students on the spectrum. They are able to figure out that gameplay without any instruction because their brain just is wired that way.
Works that way,
So they
that's
build
cool.
like structures, architecture, things like that, right from DNA coding. All of that can be taught through that game.
Now that is an idea. Wow, no way. So you actually, through working through Minecraft, actually could get them a career.
Exactly. Like, I was watching this interview of this journalist from, I think, The Guardian, who was like, if I ever meet the inventor of Minecraft, I want to shake his hand. Because my son didn't speak till we started using Minecraft to interact with him. Because he was on the autism spectrum.
Right. So I have a friend of mine with an autistic kid that worked with me for quite some time. He's probably 12 or 13 now. That was the only way they could communicate. Not through Minecraft, just through a computer. For some reason, he understood that, but whatever synapses that just was working differently. That's how they communicate with each other. It worked. Wow. I'm going to look up Minecraft because I don't know anything about it because I'm old.
But you should realize that all the old gamers are now at the age where they're game creators and they have children. So games are getting way more complex and sophisticated. I actually wanted to talk to you about this because there's a game called The Age of the Colossus. It's a very stereotypical video game. You're the guy, the protagonist who has to rescue this princess. Typical basic ass story. But each level, you're killing like this. It's a one-of-a-kind creature that exists on that planet for you to get to that princess. Okay?
Right.
And these creatures are like entire landscapes. So halfway through the game, you realize that the only evil piece of shit on the planet is you running around killing these creatures. So at that point, the game makes you think whether you should actually continue killing these creatures or do you just stop?
Right. Nice.
So they make you feel guilty about doing that.
It's Sister Rosarita inside of a game.
I know.
That's brilliant. Well, hopefully that stuff continues. It's interesting to be so old and I don't have any grandkids. So I'm missing this entire thing at this point. But what I would like to say is I don't try to act like I know what you're talking about. But now I'll go look at it. I don't, it's good. Because, what I'm hearing about yesterday was porn in the school libraries. And all I could think of is if there was porn in the school libraries, the boys would all be there and they would be reading. They just wouldn't be reading what you want. But they would be there. That's how you know it's not true.
Oh, yeah. While we're on the topic of video games, I'll tell you this last one, which is it's about immigration, and we have like 2 minutes left. So it's a game so the creators of the game wanted to show how easy it is for the human mind to be corrupt. So the game starts with you, and they tell you that you're the player, you're an immigration officer in a fictional country. So all you do in the game is you check the papers of the people applying for visas. So there are people who are like, oh, my mother's sick, I need to go see her, this, that, the other. But you can't let all of them through because some of them are like fake applicants. But the background to your story is that you have to make X amount of money to feed this family and put these kids through school. While you're playing the game, you slowly start letting things through for the sole reason that you're not meeting your targets and not moving to the next level. And ultimately, you become like a little corrupt immigration officer letting everybody through. It is brilliant, Sean. Like, I was looking at that game, and the creators of that game were like, we just wanted to show. They did it out of just mockery about the human instinct.
Right. Oh, God, yeah. I understand it. Wow. God, send me a link to that just so I can have a look at it if you think of it.
Yes. Oh, sure.
That is brilliant. Fair play turnaround.
I know.
All right.